It's been around for over 40 years and has transformed Black media here in the Tennessee Valley. I'm LaToya Clemens, and on this edition of Inside Connection, we'll speak one-on-one with William Smothers as he shares his story and the story of Speakin' Out News.
It's a long journey. Okay, my age, I'm 71. By the time this air, I'll be 72 years old. So to tell you my journey is quite a distance from Jackson, Mississippi. I'm a graduate of Jackson State University. I migrated to the city of Decatur in the year of 768, it was. At that time, I was an instructor in Morgan County school system for about 13 years. During that period of time as an educator, I started my company, Speakin' Out News, which started in the city of Decatur and eventually moved to the city of Huntsville. It goes back to my days in college there at Jackson State. I was very active in the community. As I moved to Morgan County, as I said earlier, as a teacher there in Morgan County in the city of Decatur, there were just few things that existed that addressed the positive images of our people. Black people. Even in the media, print media, primarily the newspaper, not even thinking about television, but in print media, most of the things that were covered was primarily what, a negative point of view or just more of just entertainment, a limited amount of things that our community involved. So I thank God I saw a vision to broaden the coverage. And so Speakin' Out News was born out of a necessity to cover our people through a cross-section of genres. And in the organization, you must have, you got to delegate, relegate, etc. So if I start from that top tier with the company, we're a family company. My daughter, my oldest daughter, I have 4 girls, so all of them are affiliated with the newspaper in some sort of way. Jamina Smothers Robinson, she is associate editor of the paper and the chief graphic designer. Second daughter is Neglisha Smothers Cobb. Neglisha is the chief financial officer. She makes sure that I can pay my bills and where the accounts receivables are, or payables, I should say. Thirdly, I have Tara Smothers Carter. Tara is a writer. She's a contributor. She is an outstanding writer. And finally, Can, we call her Can, but her name is Kendra Smothers. Kendra is the office manager, and she makes certain the circulation and things are taken care of. And that's the top tier there. As I come down, we have writers such as Phyllis Jones, which is the chief writer of the paper, and Portia Orr. She is one of our graphic persons too. Greg Miley. We get to circulation, we have Shelley Williams, which is outstanding, do a lot of things. He runs the whole company, I should say. But nevertheless, we come down, we have other people that contribute to the paper in so many fashions. So one thing we're very fortunate, located in the city of Huntsville, I have a pool of contributing writers that are professional people I can call to address various issues along with what we have here. Speakin' Out News has been around 41 years. We become a pillar, an institution in our community. Every sector in our community we are aware or have some type of network with that community. So you got to have your hand on the pulse of the things that are happening. That is from a local standpoint. But from a national standpoint, we also are a member of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. That's the Black Press of America. There are roughly about 200 African-American newspapers in the nation. Now I hope you think about that. Only 200. So we are the legacy of Frederick Douglass, Ida B. Wells, okay? We can go on and on about the banner that we beat. So you have to know your community. Any media, you have to know the pulse of your community and address it. But you can address it totally, not just in one sector, not just political, and we are quite political, but social, entertainment, sports, and things of that magnitude. They give a whole potpourri of what we cover. So we are a newspaper. But from that point, we have also evolved there. We realize with the change in time, we must look at digital. So we have our digital paper that comes out every Tuesday night, along with our printed edition come out Wednesday each week. So from that, we go into social media. So we have evolved not just from the print edition, Speakin' Out News, but to a media company. You have to be on top of data that is happening, the change in the culture, the demographic, and the sociographic that are happening in your community. So in order to maintain our readership, the younger readership, they get their news from what? Digital. So we have to be on top of the change of times. So with Speakin Out News, we realize if we're going to broaden our reach and our readership, we must have more than one way, a vehicle to reach the public. So with our digital paper, it gives us that link to the what? The young, the X generation, I can't say baby boomers anymore, but the X generation, Gen generation as they call it. So we had to decide to do that. Being aware of the data, research, science, and things of that nature. So it's much more than just printing a paper. It's not that, we more than a newspaper. We are an institution in the community. We started in 1980, so, when I digress that far back, but let me, wow. We addressed the issue once that was very related to us. Let me deal with us, yes. Here in the city of Huntsville, our publication was circulated primarily through the churches and home delivery. We then expanded with another newspaper here in the city called the Huntsville News at that time. We purchased their news boxes to put on the streets to their different locations, okay? However, keeping that point in mind, as we approached some of the places to put our news boxes, we were denied. We could not be permitted to put our news box there at that location. Case in point, it was Madison Square Mall at the time. I was there when it first built it, okay? That's from Chattanooga Group. We were going to put our news box there at the door to enter the mall. They said, no, you could not. They had the USA Today, they had other papers, the Huntsville Times, and other national papers right there. But we were not permitted. But realized, okay, that's okay. Frederick Douglass said, you have to what? You have to power achieve is what you have to protest. And saying that, I'm gonna put it in a short version because there's some other things I can put into that. But nevertheless, they denied us. So we could not put our box there. Now, keep in mind, we had, at the time, JCPenney was advertising with our publication, Sears was advertising with our paper. Some of the major anchor stores in that mall was advertising with our paper. But they would not allow us to do that. Being an institution, knowing our community, being supported by the church, the religious basis, the political basis, the social organization, the Greek organization, Dr. Scruggs, Dr. Dawson, Brenda Martin, Prince Prayer, Wendell Johnson, quite a few people came together as a group. And we went to the mall and had a meeting with them and dealt with the people that built the mall. And immediately they said, look, we're gonna change our decision. So they rescinded the decision. You know why? Because it was right leading to Black Friday. We were telling our people, do not support that mall that won't allow your newspaper to be there. They rescinded the decision. The story went national. AP picked the story up. So with that, out of an adversity, a lot of things, positives can come. But you don't ever give up. Persistence. That's what genius is, persistence. We wrote a story on that, okay, about contracting. And that's something we have to look at even today. And I'm gonna bring that to today, okay, connect that. Here's, Huntsville now has become the largest city in the state of Alabama. That's very notable to say that, okay? The Black population is growing, the city is growing. However, we must not just look at growth, but we got to look at what it means to the entire community. My question comes with economics there. How many contracts of Black businesses are getting contracts let to Black businesses here with the country growing like it is? What type of bylaws or ordinance do we have on our city, from our city, to allow a percentage to go to Black businesses or minority-owned businesses in our city? And I can go on with that story, but we did a story on the restaurant Arsenal. Then we came back to the grocery stores. And so we have been there, okay, to cover our community so much, so much. From my kitchen table in Decatur, on 19th Avenue, I sketched out Speakin Out News, a magazine. It started as a magazine format. This is the very beginning from 41 years ago. I'm working now on my memoirs, but this is from 41 years. This is how it started. This was an abstract drawing of the magazine, remember, okay? Here's November of 1980. We started, I got one on the wall, but the beginning issue. But this is in 1980. Notice we have here, we talk about issues that are affecting what? Women. Notice some of the headlines we dealt with there. We talked grounds for divorce, education Alabama, more with less. That's what we're doing now, okay? These diseases are affecting and scarring women. This is the second edition we published. This is how it started. And from here, I realized earlier that that was not gonna work. After a year of trying to publish a magazine and trying to get located in those stores, we used to go in and move the jets, not jets, but other things by the cashier checkout counter, and we'll drop a what, Speakin, and what they call, Smothers, Mr. Smothers, you need to come get this out of here. We evolved into a tabloid newspaper, okay? And with that, okay, this is the tabloid that we evolved. We stayed in that format for a while, you see? Now, the date on this edition here is November 11th, 1982. Okay, if you look at the front page, you see Dr. John Uren. Dr. John Uren was head of the Masonic Temple here in Huntsville. Dr. Uren was a pastor of First Baptist down in Decatur. You look at here, that's Attorney Henry Mims over there. I can go on and on. Okay, we stayed a tabloid newspaper for some while, but I realized that I need to get a standard newspaper size, and we changed to a broadsheet. So it went from a magazine to a tabloid to a broadsheet. This is a broadsheet during that time, okay? Notice the difference in the size, okay? Tabloid. So you see the evolution of Speakin Out News. And it's a lot of history. Now, if you really want to see all of our publications, the law library downtown, by law, they have to carry a copy of all the newspapers. In any business you look at, you have to create your brand. And that is done by, I use the word consistency, okay? And you got to know your market. You got to look at data and analyze that data and direct your product toward that market. So we serve the Black community. We make no apology for that, but we do not alienate any community. We are the Black press of America. We are that legacy from Ruth Warren and people that started the Black press back in 1783 in that era. So we look at that, we take pride in that. And so with that brand, and with Huntsville where it's growing, the market is growing, we have all types of professionals, more doctors, Black doctors in the state of in Huntsville and in part of the state of Alabama. So we direct to the intellectual, we direct to the anyone, you know. So, but we're there. The key thing is that you got to serve your community. And Speakin Out News, we wear that banner, serving our community. I'm proud of it, and I'm excited today as I was in 1980. I guess you can feel that. And I don't get too overexcited in your interview, but you asked about marketing and brand, what makes us different. We are the Black press, and we cover events that are affecting our community, okay, but not being alienating anyone else. We got to be on top of things all the time. We are educated. We're informing, we're giving facts. We are a trusted news source, a trusted news source. When we talk about the virus, when we talk about things that are affecting our health, it can be trusted. Our church, let me digress to our church directory. We cover issues within our church that other news sources do not even think newsworthy. But we do that. Anniversaries, past anniversaries, things that are going on with the choir, new speakers that people come in, we do that. So with that, I want people to take away that Speakin Out News is a viable source, perspective of African American affairs. With our vendors going into their businesses, it was really limited. So my circulation people had to find other ways to get the paper to them, because the restaurants and some of the beauty shops you couldn't go in any longer, and you don't want to leave the product outside because you get wet or damaged or something like that, or even someone pick it up. So it affected us in that sort of sense of circulation, but mainly it affected us as far as revenue. Advertisers, we had a big drop in revenue from our advertisers, and that's really, I guess, people not shopping, so they're not spending money. So it was a trickle-down effect to us. So yes, we were still affected. We're not out of that. I love music. I went to college at Jackson State, the Sunday Boom of the South, playing trombone. That's what took me to college. But I love music. So as you see my backdrop, you see a keyboard, you see a trombone on the wall that took me to college. But one song that came out some years ago was by Barry White. Barry White had a song called Practice What You Preach. Practice what you preach. If we talk about economic empowerment, if we talk about community growth, okay, if we talk about broadening our political involvement, we have to be involved in support. We have to support each other. But a lot of times it's just verbal. it's just a feel-good situation. That, okay, they're not really out there. So I ask people to support Speakin Out News. Because when you support me or Speakin Out News, you're supporting yourself. Because we're going to cover the news. We're going to offer jobs and employment. When you look at my staff and the people that are here, we got a diverse staff, but look who you see, most majority. So, but we don't practice what we preach. We get excited and emotional and say we're going to do these things, but we don't persist and carry them through. We got to have more economic development with minority businesses here in the city of Huntsville. We got to have a growth, but we got to support those that existed. Many of us do not. That's that stigma that has been put down from slavery about not supporting each other, okay? That Kraft syndrome or the Widow Lynch syndrome. We do not support each other. So if I had to say support, you should have, you can, may not all your business go into one business, okay? You can go to Charles or another restaurant, but you can go to Sarah and Saks. You can go there too, one time a week. You can read other paper, but you can read Speakin Out News too. But we don't practice that. We have that systemic, how can I describe it? A prejudice against ourselves. You know, now you have to look in the mirror and say, do I support my own businesses in my community? How many times, do you have a black doctor you go in, lawyers, CPAs? You know, we have to have a self-analyzation of us. It may be offensive to some people to hear that like that, but it's the truth. It's so the truth. So if I had to leave anything, support Speakin Out News. This right here is news. When you look at in the world, okay, the first thing that happened, they wanted to take down the media, right? To block communication. When we look at Afghanistan, okay? When we look at what happened with the Taliban, first thing they're doing now is moving what? The news sources down, correct? So if it's so valuable, you need to support it. Is that enough?
I love it. You just heard from William Smothers sharing the story of Speakin Out News. For more information, you may visit www.speakinoutweeklynews.net. I'm LaToya Clemens for this edition of the Inside Connection.